This class starts with 15 minutes of balance, and I'm changing that up a little bit today. I'm integrating the balance and the yin, just a little bit, but I think it will be interesting. So everybody, let's start by standing up. And I'm going to suggest if you feel hesitant, go over to a wall. That's why we have walls. Putting an arm or a hand on the wall is fine. In fact, that's wise because you don't want to leave verticality. That's why we're practicing. Okay, so to start, come to a position somewhere on your mat. Get your feet about hip width apart. Lift your toes, spread them wide, and place your toes down. Make sure that your second toe is pointed sort of straight ahead. If your toes are, semicircular like mine, maybe you just want to line up the outside of your feet. But with your toes spread, that will give you more stability. From here, we're coming into Tadasana, which is mountain pose. So stand up straight, take the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. The crown of your head is towards the back, right above your vertebrae. And then from here, isometrically drag your feet toward each other so that you can feel the muscles in your legs and your hips grip. Then take your upper inner thighs, rotate them towards the back. And now tilt your pelvis under, tucking your tailbone under. And that will accentuate that nice lumbar reverse arch in your lower spine, just like it's supposed to be. From here, take your shoulders up towards your ears, roll them towards the back, have your shoulder blades kiss, and then just let your shoulder blades drift down your back. Your gaze is off at the horizon, or maybe your eyes are closed. It's not important. And breathe in and out through your nose. And then open your eyes to start to balance. Begin to bring all your weight into your left foot. Lift your right foot up about an inch. And on an inhale, bring that right foot forward, trying to place the sole of your foot on the far wall. Your arms are here to help keep you vertical, so don't be afraid to use them. Give a point somewhere on the floor, maybe 6, 8 feet in front of you. Certainly don't look at another person, especially me, because that will mess up your balance. And by lifting up your leg this way, you're stretching or you're really engaging your right psoas muscle. That's the big muscle that attaches to the top of your thigh, at the top of your femur, and goes up and attaches to each of your lumbar vertebrae all the way up to the bottom vertebrae supporting your bottom rib. And then slowly begin to bring that foot out to the right. Try to keep your toes facing up. Now your body's going to naturally lean to the left here. That's okay. You're feeling different parts of your left ankle. But a lot of the work is being done by your other hip flexors. Other than your psoas, that's your iliacus, and maybe you can actually feel that way at the top of your pelvis, because that's where the iliacus is attached on the inside of your pelvic bowl. And then rotate that foot all the way behind you with your heel up. Keep your focus on the mat someplace. It doesn't have to stay in the same place. And now you're using your glutes. But notice the muscles in your left leg. I'm sure this is the first moment that you've noticed them. But balance is strength. You need strength to balance. And then inhale, and stand all the way up. Put your right foot down and step that out. Okay, so now take a couple steps back, get onto your mat. We're going to do another balance pose, but the wall isn't going to help you. And what I'd like you to do is take a giant step forward with your right foot. We're going to come into a long, low lunge. And I'll suggest getting your blocks and putting them on either side of the mat, up by your front foot. You're coming, both toes or both feet are facing in the same direction. And when this becomes too much for you, just come down onto your left knee. And so from here, drop your pelvis, push your left heel back so you really feel those muscles in your left thigh and your left calf. And of course, you're not noticing at all that your right quads are working pretty hard. Drag that right hip back a little bit. And then on an inhale, lift your arms up. Maybe arch your back just a little bit. Maybe you can deepen the bend. And don't forget, this is not a challenge. You can always put your knee down. This is balance. And with that knee down, the balance is just as challenging. And then let your arms float out to the side. And then begin to rotate your chest towards the right. Breathe slowly in and out through your nose. And then on an inhale, come back to center. And then twist to the left. Come back to center. And bring your hands down onto your blocks or onto the mat. Carefully lower that back knee. Put your toenails down. And we are in the perfect position to start dragon, which for the longest time was my least favorite pose in yoga. I've hated this since the first day I did yoga. But what you're doing here, now we're going to do high flying dragon. So your hands can be on either side of that front foot. You can draw your knee over the top of your toes, keeping your heel down, and that will stretch your Achilles and your gastrocnemius muscles, the big muscles of your calves. Maybe move that left knee back a little bit and try to drop your hips towards the mat. Now, if we were all 20-something, most of you women would have your pelvis on the mat from this position. Thank God we're not all 20. What you're doing here, you're stretching your psoas. Your left psoas is being stretched the long direction, and your right psoas is being flexed an absolute maximum amount. That right knee could be up into your shoulder or into your armpit or in front of your shoulder. And then from here, if you'd like a change, just bring your hands down to the mat. Walk that right foot over towards the side of your mat a little bit. Now you can use your blocks to raise the floor, coming down onto your elbows if you wish. And then maybe you want to drop that knee off to the right into Winged Dragon. And in Winged Dragon, you can feel those muscles that picked your leg up and moved it out to the side. You're now stretching them the same way. And once you become still, those muscles will begin to soften after about a minute. And if you can't deal with this, just back up, come up higher, or don't go quite as far. I've had lots of experience backing up in this pose. Because some days my body will comply and will be able to soften, and other days it's just not going to work. But the way that Yin works is by stretching those muscles and then softening to let the tension come into your fascia. And then on an inhale, push your palms into the mat, straighten your arms, lifting your chest up. Walk your hands back. Release that right knee back, coming into table. And in table, do a few cat-cows. Your knees are directly below your hips. Your wrist creases are directly below your shoulders. And on an inhale, your belly drops. Chest comes forward. Sit bones lift and separate. And on the exhale, round your spine, tuck your tailbone. And last, your chin comes towards your chest. Now there are modifications here. You can always curl your toes under and come up into downward facing dog. And walk out your dog, bringing joy to your hamstrings. And then the next time I see you, just walk your feet forward if you're in down dog. If you're in table, just come up into a standing position at the front of your mat. You'll be glad that you have another side. Okay, so come back into Tadasana. And I always like to do Tadasana in the same way every time. I change the descriptions many times for my students, but I always do it the same rhythm, the same way, because then it gets me exactly into the right position. And that is so that your spine is as vertical as it's intended to be, that your hips are in the right position, your shoulders are in the right position, your eyes are, so that your body does the least amount of work. And here you can actually relax when you're online at Kroger, or not Kroger, but Publix. You can even pick up a foot and balance, and it becomes easy. Or not. Bring the weight into your right foot this time. Lift that left foot up 1 inch. And on an inhale, bring that foot forward. Change your gaze to something on the floor in front of you. And if your leg is shaking a lot like mine, it's because I don't do this position, this pose very often. And so my nerves aren't in sync with my muscles. So my muscles tense, and then my nerves say relax, and then the muscle relaxes, my nerves say tense up, and so it goes back and forth. But after you do it for a while, your body calms out, begins to understand what you're asking it to do. And then bring that left foot out to the left. Try to keep your toes up and appreciate the stretch or the work that your hip flexors are doing here. You can touch your foot down whenever you need to. And then bring that heel back behind you. Priscilla and I were trying to do this on Guadalupe Mountain in northern Texas. And we had 50 and 60 mile an hour winds. So just staying remotely upright was hard. And then release. Step that out. Maybe make some circles with your hips. And bring weight into your calves. Maybe that will help relieve those muscles. And then step to the back of your mat. Make sure your blocks are within reach. Come back to Tadasana. And then on an exhale, take a giant step forward. Bend that front knee. Try to square up your hips. Maybe put your pointer fingers on the top of your femur, just to make sure that your hips are pointed forwards. My yoga instructors always said, imagine you had headlights on the both hip points. They'd be pointing straight ahead. So once you're stable here, and if you're having a hard time, you can always spread your feet a little bit wider on the mat, left to right, that is. And then inhale, bring your arms up, gaze up, a little bit of a back bend. Maybe sink down a little bit more, maybe not. And then allow your arms to come out to the side. From here, begin to twist to the left. Do the hard side first. And notice how different this side is. Try to straighten up your spine. And then on an inhale, come back to center and twist to the right. And then on your next inhale, come back to center. Gently lower back down. Lower that left knee down. Put your toenails down. That should feel really good on your calf. And from here, maybe just bring your hips back. Leave your right heel where it is out in front. And stretch your thighs here. Hamstrings may have been really working hard. And then come back up and come into dragon. You can move that right knee back a little bit. You can keep your hands on the blocks or on the mat. Doesn't really matter. You can overstep your knee in front of your toes to get more stretch into your ankle. That also opens up your hip socket a little bit more, I think. At least that does with me. Notice what parts of your body, what muscles are being engaged here. Again, it's your hip flexors, primarily in this pose now, although your shoulders and arms and wrists are certainly doing something. And use your breath and breathe into those areas that have the most sensation. That will give them more oxygen, more water, so that they can relax more easily. And then if you'd like to modify this, you can always come into low flying dragon or winged dragon, walking that left foot out a little bit or a lot. Come down onto your elbows onto the mat or onto blocks. Drop that left knee out to the side. And try to stretch your spine long. You're always seeking length in yoga. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your palms to the mat. Walk your hands back towards your right knee, and when you can, release that left knee back beneath the right. Into table. Maybe cat-cow, maybe make some big circles. These counter poses after the stretches are real important to bring more fluid, more oxygen into those cells and tissues that have worked so hard. And then lower your knees back down to the mat. From here, walk your hands forward, and then your knees back, coming down onto your belly. And then come up onto your elbows. We're coming into Sphinx pose. So for Sphinx, you want your elbows underneath your shoulders. You want to lift your chest high. Now for your hips, your pubic bone is pressed down. Your feet are together. If my teacher trainer were here, she'd be right behind me, kicking my feet so that they're touching. But you don't have to do that. If your legs are such that you need to have your feet a little bit farther apart, do it. But from here, push your toenails into the mat, lifting up your knees. Lift your chest a little bit more. Your gaze is down between your hands. And isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. This is the Yawn version of Sphinx. You're engaging all those muscles that you're now going to target for relaxation and softening. So, begin by softening your legs, your toes, the backs of your knees, your thighs, your glutes, your lower belly, your lower back. And finally, just allow your head to fall forward. Your head is just being pulled down by gravity, just to make sure you don't have any tension left in your cervical spine. Maybe move your head a little bit left to right, or make circles on the mat with your nose. Just minor movement. And then become still. Try to figure out exactly where you're feeling this back bend the most. On your exhale, release, cross your forearms, use them as a pillow. Bring your right knee up towards your right elbow. Maybe gaze up towards the left side. So you're in half a frog. And by just moving that knee out and up, you're twisting your spine, relieving the tension of that back bend. Now, we're not going to be here very long. And then on your next inhale, bring your feet back together. Come up onto your elbows again. And this time, maybe you want to walk your toenails out to the sides of your mat, right to the edge. Maybe you want to bring your palms out towards the front corners. If you haven't done this pose very often, I recommend just staying in this Sphinx pose. And those of you who are more experienced can certainly make this into seal, which I'll show in a minute. But again, from here, push down with your toenails. Then lift your chest high, gaze down, still between your hands. You don't want to stress your neck. Isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. Or if you want a little bit more, you can straighten your arms. Get a little bit more height, and a lot more bend in your spine. But if this is too tight for you, go right back down. Nothing is worse than having a small of your back pain, and then relax. Release your legs, your glutes, your lower belly, your back. Let your head fall forward. You can stay up if you're in seal, or you can come down onto your elbows. You know your own body better than anybody else. It's better not to overdo it. But feel the back bend. See how different this one is than the first. Can you detect which vertebra is being affected the most? And then on an exhale, release. Hold your arms again. Bring your left knee up towards your left elbow. Gaze off in the opposite direction. And feel how your body is recovering. Maybe you can actually feel the blood returning to your muscles of your spine. You have 2 rows of muscles, each 4 muscles long, all the way from your neck down to your pelvis on each side. And then on your next inhale, return your left knee to meet the right. Put your hands on the mat next to the chest. Push the floor away, lifting up through a table. Spread your knees apart. If you want to make your child's pose extra wide, just bring a towel and put a knee on it. But bring your big toes together. Bring your hips down on top of your heels and walk your hands forward. Bringing your belly in between your thighs. Resting your head on the mat if it reaches, on a towel if it doesn't, or maybe on a block. All kinds of uses for your blocks. Yeah, great. Okay. I'm going to adjust some of you from time to time. If you don't want me to touch you, just wave me away when you sense that I'm here. Child's pose is a spine lengthener. It has a little bit of a forward fold in it. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, begin to walk your hands back towards your knees. Bring your knees together and come back up into table. And do a few more cat-cows with your own breath. Exaggerate the movement. Exaggerate the motion. The next time you come to center, pause. And to start with, we're going to do half camel, or I'm sorry, half saddle. And so just sit back on your heels. This is called hero. And this is completely acceptable for doing camel. Can't get my animals right. Can't get, and it's not even an animal. Can't get saddle right. Okay, now what I'm going to teach is doing it in two halves. So we'll make this first one a right half saddle. So take your left leg out in front. Now your hips can be sitting on that right heel. You can sit on a block if that makes sense. For me, I need a rolled up towel to put underneath my sit bones. And you may need 2 blocks to get your hips up. But if you can get your right heel outside your right hip, that will help. What that will do, that will rotate your femur inwardly in your hip socket. So can you see here what I'm doing? Maybe if I do it this way. I'll use a block here. Do it like this, where this foot is outside my hip. And if it doesn't work for you, just go cross-legged with one leg. That's good. Okay, from here, what you want to do is you want to tip your pelvis backward. So that, so bring your hands behind your hips. Now, tuck your tailbone under and feel how much your hips work. Bring your hands behind, okay? And just play with that. Then try to move the person behind you, feel it, your pelvis tip the other way, and then tuck it under. Now, if you're flexible enough, maybe you can come down onto your elbows. Or maybe all the way down onto your back. I might have to call 911 to get you up, but be aware of your knee. You don't want to overstress your knee. What you're feeling here is primarily your quad. Your right quads are being stretched to probably the maximum they can be stretched. And if this is too much and you can't relax, just come back up. You'll still have that stretch. And one trick that you can use is to just take your hand and just run your hand over that quad that's being stretched. And merely by doing that, you're telling your muscles by your touch that they don't have to do any more. And your muscles will soften. And when they soften, that's when the tension gets transferred. And then come all the way back up. And from here, roll onto your left hip. Bring your right leg forward. Everybody say, ah. Push your heels away. Bring your feet about hip width apart. Push your heels away. That flexes your feet. And then rock your toes from side to side. That rotates your femurs in your hip sockets, bringing more fluid into that socket that you were just challenging. And then when you're done with that, sit upright. Okay, now we're going to do half Dragonfly. And Dragonfly is nothing like dragon. Bend your right knee and bring the sole of your right foot into your inner left thigh. And to open this up just a little bit, maybe move your left foot off right to the edge of your mat, so that you're looking straight forward at the center of your mat. And then from there, just turn your chest so that you're looking at your left foot. From here, lift your spine tall, and then walk your hands forward on either side of that left leg, drawing your collarbones towards your foot. And then when you get to the right point for you, once your body says to pause, pause there. Don't grab onto that leg, because that would be a different kind of class. That would be my Ashtanga class yesterday, where everything is strength-based. In this class, you want gravity to do the work. You want your muscles to do the least amount of work once you've stretched into it. And feel where that stretch is. It's along your hamstrings. It's a little bit along your groins. It's along your back. You want those areas to soften. You're also opening up that right hip somewhat. Maybe you can actually feel that right knee falling down to the mat. Listen carefully. On your next inhale, come up about halfway. Look at that foot. Stretch your collarbones farther again. Maybe moon the person behind you. See if you can come forward any bit more. And then fall forward again. This time, allow your head to bow. If your hands are just too eager to grab on and pull, maybe just turn your palms up towards the ceiling, as if you're making an offering. And if you find that you can't release, you can't relax, just back up. Lift your chest up enough so that you can relax those muscles, because nothing happens if your muscles continue to grab. Allow your hands to be supported by the floor. And that's important, either the floor or your body. That's important because if you have some muscles that are really working hard, your other body parts want to work too. and it's harder for you to get those to soften. A good use of your hands if you're struggling with your hamstrings, is maybe take that left hand again and just lightly stroke the back of your thigh where your hamstrings are. You certainly will be able to feel where they are, because they're probably hard as rocks. And that will allow them to soften. And that is the whole practice. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, release and walk your hands back up. Release your right foot out to the front of the mat. Bring your left foot over to mate. Bring your hands behind your hips. Bend your knees. And you can have your feet together or apart, but slowly, very slowly, windshield wiper from one side to another. And feel the difference from side to side. And feel your body actually relaxing here. As more fluid goes into your joints. This is really lubricating your hip flexors. And the next time you come to center, pause. This is where you're going to need the strap. So does anyone not have a strap? Okay, everybody has a strap. Okay, so come all the way down onto your back. Push your heels towards the front of the mat. Push your hands to the top of your mat. Stretch. And then bring your arms back down by your sides. Bring your right foot up into your chest, your right knee up into your chest. Give yourself a big squeeze. Maybe you can get that knee right into your chest, or maybe you're a little more flexible and you can get it close to your armpit. And then take the middle of your strap and place it around the ball of your foot. And then with one hand on each end of the strap, step your foot up onto the ceiling so that your footprint is going to leave a mark. And be glad that your mother's not here. And with your arms, pull your hands apart. That will increase the amount of force, bringing that leg down into your hip socket, seating your femur into your pelvis. Notice if you have that jittering feeling in your leg popping around, that's okay. That's normal. Keep pushing that left heel away. And then carefully change your bind into just your right hand. And turn that right foot about 15 degrees to the right. Bring your left hand on top of your left thigh. Now the left hand is going to make sure that your left hip does not come up off of the floor. And then slowly begin to lower that right leg out to the side. Knowing that you're never going to get all the way to the floor. And if you get too close, you can always increase the tension to prevent that leg from coming all the way down. You want to maintain that tension, but the muscles that are pushing your leg out there will end up starting to relax. Check your left hip, make sure it's still down. Try to soften your lower abdomen. Try softening your pelvic floor. If your right leg has begun to soften, or if it is soft, you can always just increase the tension enough so that you're stretching a little bit more and urge those muscles to soften again. That will get more of that tension into your fascia, create more sensation for your body and your stem cells to go to those areas to build more cells. Anyone who's told you that stem cells are only from young people, that's not true. We're producing stem cells every day. Just not as many as when you were young. That's why injuries take a little bit more time to heal. And the next inhale, slowly bring that leg all the way back up to the ceiling. When you get straight up, pause there for a moment, and then change your bind into your left hand. Use your right thumb in your right hip crease to keep that right hip down. And then just urge that left leg, that right leg off to the left, maybe 8 or 10 inches until you feel a nice stretch on the outside of your right leg. Maybe you want to take that right hand and run it along the outside of your leg. You can feel your IT band. That's a band of mainly tendons and fascia, but when it gets up towards your glutes, there's a tiny bit of muscle. If you're a runner, you do a lot of hiking, that sometimes gets really engaged too much, needs releasing. And then bring that leg all the way back up. Keep tension on the strap as you bend your knee. Release the strap. Draw both knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Rock from left to right. And make some circles on the ceiling. And then the next pose starts in a seated position. So maybe if it's okay for you, you can cross your ankles and then rock forwards and backwards and come up. Or you can roll onto your right side and then use your left hand to push yourself up. Okay. This time, we're going to do half saddle on the left. So, get your props, whatever you need. Lean over onto your right hip. Bring that left heel back. And again, you can sit on that heel if you wish. You're getting a nice ankle stretch on this. And again, if you're a runner or a walker or a hiker, this is really nice on that ankle too. Here, lift your chest high. Bring your hands behind your hips. Tuck your tailbone under. Maybe as you tuck your tailbone under, you can feel that tension increasing on your quads. Feel free to use a block or two. Now you may feel this is just perfect for you, and that's great. You may want to look up, you may want to look straight ahead. Don't stress your neck. And come back, if you wish, you can come back onto your elbows. And don't expect both sides to be the same. They never are. And if your muscles are objecting too much, just take a deep cleansing breath. Let it out through your nose. And that will calm your nervous system, reduce your heart rate and your blood pressure, and allows your body to relax. A deep cleansing breath engages your parasympathetic nervous system. That nervous system that regulates sleep and relaxation. Your sympathetic nervous system activates your fight or flight instincts. And the muscles that are associated with that are primarily your psoas and your other hip muscles, those muscles that get you out of town quickly when a leopard is chasing you across the savannah. Or in South Africa, it might be an elephant. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, rise back up. Roll back onto your right hip. Release your left leg out to the front of your mat. Hands behind your hips, straighten out your legs. Push your heels away. Feel your hamstrings stretch and wave your feet. And then sit up all the way. Move that right foot out to the right side of your mat, and then your left knee. Coming into half dragonfly. Inhale your chest high, turn towards your right foot. And on an exhale, draw your collarbones towards your toes, crown of your head towards the far wall. Release the urge to pull on your leg. Notice if the side is any tighter than the other. The odds are one side is tighter than the other because you have a dominant side. You have more muscles on one side of your body than the other. So that side needs more attention for a practice like Yin. And be aware as your body softens, you can always adjust your edge. And your edge is that point that you can stretch maximum, and then your body can release. And during every practice, every pose is dynamic. It changes based on where your body is at the moment. Soften your shoulder blades. Let your shoulders just slip off the sides of your chest. Remember, you can always touch your hamstrings if those are the tightest muscles, keeping you from going any further. Investigate. Be curious. And try to remember what works for the next practice. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, slowly rise back up. Release your left leg out to the front. And bring your legs together, your hands behind your hips. And again, before you even start windshield wiping, maybe move your feet either wider or closer together, just to see what the difference is. A couple of times I've tried putting one leg in, one foot in the middle and the other on the left. Really made a difference. You know, so trying different things is good. Your body can do almost anything. And investigating what it can do is part of the magic of yoga. From here, you can stretch your legs back out to the front. Make sure your strap is handy, and then make your way down onto your back. Bring your arms up overhead, and then towards the wall beyond your head, and stretch from heels to palms. From your manicure to your pedicure. Turn your arms back down by your side. Grab your strap. Bring your left knee up into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Maybe bring it in towards your sternum and then a little bit out. Just see how it feels or wants to feel. And then place the center of the strap over the ball of your foot. Step onto the ceiling. Draw that leg down into your hip socket. Bring your arms apart. increasing the weight of that leg. So this is a yawn pose for your shoulders and your chest. Your back is doing the work here, strengthening. Push your heel on your right foot away so you can feel that leg. And then carefully change the bind into just your left hand. Right hand comes to the top of your right thigh. Turn your foot a little bit to the left. And then over the course of maybe 4 breaths, have that left leg make the journey down towards the floor, knowing it will never get there. You can increase the tension whenever it makes sense. You can rest your elbow on a block, or even rest your leg on a block. But keep the tension there. The targets of this pose are your hip flexors, your adductors, those muscles that help draw your legs together, and your groins. Soften your jaw. Check your right hip to make sure that it's remaining down on the mat. If this feels too easy at any point, just increase the tension by either pulling a little bit harder or just changing the length of your bind. Likewise, you can relax a little bit more. Back up. You can release your foot to come up a bit. It's up to you. Whatever makes the most sense to your body. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your foot all the way back up towards the ceiling. And pause there a bit. Maybe draw that foot towards the wall behind your head a little bit. Gaining a little bit more tension in the back of your leg, your hamstrings. And then, still with tension on the strap, begin to bend your knee until it's comfortable to release the strap. Draw that knee into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Draw the other knee into your chest. Give yourself another squeeze and rock from left to right. Make some circles with your knees, one direction. And then make sure you go in the opposite direction. because that will release different muscles. And the next time you come to center, pause. Roll your feet down onto the mat. Walk your legs out towards the front of the mat. Lift your arms up one more time towards the ceiling and coming down onto the mat behind your head. Stretch one more time. Heels and palms away. Stretching your back body. Fingers and toes. Stretches your front side of your body. And then bring your arms back down by your side or out to the side. Walk your feet out towards the sides of your mat. Rock your pelvis from left to right. Find the perfect location for your sacrum on your mat. If you want to walk your shoulder blades underneath your chest a little bit more, you can do that. Roll your head left to right. Lift your head 1 inch, tuck your chin, stretch long, and then carefully lower your head back down. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and exhale it out through your nose. Take another cleansing breath in through your nose. Exhale it out through your nose. And take rest. I will be coming around and adjusting some of you. Won't get to everybody. But again, if you don't want me to touch you, just wave me away when you hear my footprints. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes, to your wrists, and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, walk your footprints up towards your sit bones, drawing the knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Then rock from left to right, massaging your spine all the way from your right hip and right shoulder to your left hip and left shoulder. And the next time you come over on towards your right side, pause there in fetal pose for just a few moments, using your right arm as a pillow, and scan your body for any tension that's still lurking in your tissues and in your muscles, so that you'll be able to address it sometime later this week. And then using the strength in your left hand, push the floor away, rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga practice with me this afternoon. Being able to practice in person, feeling the energy of each of you, really enhances each of our practices. Thank you for the efforts that you're making to improve the health of your body and your mind through the practice of yoga. Take the compassion and empathy and peace that you practice every time you step on the mat with you, everywhere you go, and share it with your family, your friends, and each person you might meet. Namaste. My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thanks for attending.